Ellen Berlekamp graduated at the age of 24 with a PhD from MIT and has spent most of his career at Berkeley since then. His PhD was in electrical engineering, and his appointment at Berkeley was in electrical engineering. He has spent some time at Bell Labs and elsewhere in the meantime, but mostly at Berkeley. He's the only professor of mathematics who doesn't hold a mathematics degree here. So anybody who knows anything about the culture of our math department knows that that's quite a tall statement. He is an expert on a number of things, as you might imagine from his varied career. He is, let's see, in his research, his earlier research, he devised algorithms for decoding algebraic error-correcting codes. And they've had widespread use in disk memories and magnetic and optical memory, as well as DVDs. And they're the NASA standards for space communications. His first graduate student invented the Unix operating system in the late 1960s. Elwin helped found several, he went part-time as a faculty member, helped found several companies, one of which is worth now more than 1,000 times what he sold it for. He was elected to the National Academy of Engineering at the age of 37, the youngest member in 1977, elected to the National Academy of Sciences, highly unusual to be elected to both. He was elected to NAS in 1999. He's also a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He's co-authored or authored several books largely on game theory, which is what he's going to be speaking to us about today. One that I've shared with my son and daughter is called The Dots and Boxes Game, Sophisticated Child's Play. And another well-known set of volumes called Winning Ways for Your Mathematical Plays, which you can get on Amazon as well if you want. I believe that Elwin is going to speak today on the Chinese game of Go. Is that correct? And I will leave it to him for the rest. Thank you.
Much as I would like to lecture at a large blackboard, which is my normal style, in order to reach out to varied audiences here today, I've decided to copy some of my predecessors. So I'm going to use both a written script, which I don't think I've ever done before, and a PowerPoint presentation, which I've done only once or twice. So hopefully it all works, but this is a test. This is the website of the College of Letters and Sciences today. As you know, we have many departments organized into 4 divisions. We're also the heirs of a long tradition dating back to medieval Europe, when the 2 subjects now known as mathematics were then arithmetic and geometry. They were viewed as static subjects. The dynamic form of geometry was also included. It was called astronomy. The dynamic form of arithmetic, which was then mostly the study of number theory, included chords, which formed the basis of music. Together, these subjects formed the quadrivium, which were the origin of our quantitative scholastic aptitude test. The 3 verbal subjects were called the trivium, and these so-called trivial subjects were comprised the LNS curriculum in medieval Europe. Meanwhile, in Asia, beginning with the Tang dynasty starting in 618 AD, and for many centuries thereafter, the emperors of China reserved many positions for gentlemen scholars, who were distinguished by their mastery of the 4 accomplishments. The first 2 of these formed the basis of the Asian LNS writing requirement. They were poetry and painting. Painting included calligraphy, so it really was a verbal art. The 3rd of the 4 accomplishments was music. The 4th of the 4 accomplishments was mastery of the Asian board game called Go. So if we were to be true to our global intellectual heritage, you can see that 3/7 of the resources of the College of Letters and Sciences today ought to be devoted to studies of the game of Go. Which brings me to the topic of today's talk, mathematical Go. This is a modern attempt to bridge these traditions of the East and the West. This is the only Go book translated from English into Japanese, contrasted with several hundred that have been translated in the other direction. Our work on this book has led to many interesting interactions with East Asians, and their attitudes towards theory, rules, ties, clocks, team matches, and tournament organization are still all very different from those in the West. Go is a board game with very simple basic rules, yet very sophisticated strategy. I'll first comment on a few bits of the historical background, moving quickly to the most recent century, which I think is the most relevant today. The game of Go originated in China about 4,000 years ago. Confucius regarded it as a frivolous pastime. But first the Taoists, then also the Buddhists, the court, and eventually large swaths of the entire populations of China, Korea, and then Japan came to regard Go as the ultimate intellectual challenge. This attitude has persisted into modern times. The parents of a promising adolescent would often pay a famous Go master to accept the student as a boarder in the master's house, where he would study under the master's tutelage. This apprentice system has also continued into the present day. Following the Meijin Restoration in mid-19th century Japan, a variety of championship titles were established, often funded by rival business groups. Today, there are about a dozen major titles, each of which has a first prize of at least 25 million yen, or about $250,000. In the early 1930s, several radically new opening strategies were introduced by two young superstars, Kitani and Go Sagan. The younger Go master was actually born in China, where he astounded his elders playing brilliant Go at the age of 11. His playing career in Japan in the 1930s was marked by some spectacular victories, interspersed with many illnesses and a few defeats. Today, most professional games last one day. The slowest and most famous Go game ever played, by far, occurred in the fall of 1938. It involved some colorful characters. One player, named Sushai, held two major titles, and he had announced that this game would mark his retirement. His challenger was Kitani. The official commentator was Go Sagan. The sponsor was Japan's largest newspaper, the Asahi Shimbun. To boost their circulation, they arranged for this game to be played slowly over many sessions, each in a different city on a different day with many breaks. The actual game took 15 sessions spread out over several months. The winner was Kitani. The newspaper columns about this game discussed not only the plays on the board, but also the manners, the emotions, and the symbolism of youth versus age. The writer of these newspaper columns was Kawabata Yasunari. He later revised them into a very famous book called The Master of Go. He won the 1968 Nobel Prize for Literature. Following a series of more illnesses and personal crises, Go Sagan spent the years during World War II becoming a devoutly religious Buddhist. But after the war, he returned to dominate the game for an entire decade. For several consecutive years, he held all of the major titles, a feat well beyond what anyone else has ever done before or since. Sushai died 14 months after his famous retirement match. Kawabata died 4 years after receiving his Nobel Prize. Kitani died in 1975. But Go Sagan continued to find innovative new openings and to teach students well into his late 80s. This photo was taken on his 90th birthday in 2004. One of his own students, a woman named Naiwei Rui, won a major international title in 2002, more than 50 years after Go Sagan had first held them all himself.